Have you ever been in a situation where you feel like you've been boxed in and you've been pigeonholed in a job? It's a bit like, actors. They're in a movie. Say, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger is in a movie and it's all about action. And any movie that you associate with him, it's always going to be action-led. You can't imagine him in a proper, say, a romantic movie, for example. I can't anyway. We typecast people in movies, and yet we also do that with other people in our lives. Is that serving you, or is that actually creating sabotage for you? Is that creating disconnection for you? My own personal feeling is it's when you start pigeonholing yourself. That's where the problem lies. Now, today, I have with me two amazing guests who are going to share with us about getting out of the box. Their name is Runa and Nick, and you are watching the Harun Rabbani Show. Welcome to the show, Nick and Runa. Runa, how do you pronounce your name? Runa MAGNÚSDÓTTIR?
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, well, there you go. Thank you very much. Runa's from Iceland. Runa's the change maker. I'm going to introduce Nick in a moment. Runa's the CEO of a company called Change Maker, and she's a co-author with Nick Haines. And Runa, can you share with our audience who've not met you, and there's a couple of who haven't met you yet, a bit about your background? You're from Iceland. What's your background in terms of the corporate work that you've been doing, the business that you've been leading?
You know, I've been so fortunate to be, that I've had the opportunity to be an entrepreneur most of my adulthood life. I actually, my background, I started straight from college working close to the second female to be a minister in Iceland, in the Icelandic cabinet. And I was her private secretary as a young woman. And she taught me so much, this magical woman. She taught me so much about what it is to be a woman at the time. This is, should we talk about years? It tells so much. This is back, yeah, it's in the later states of the last century, let's put it that way. She taught me so much, because at the time it wasn't really a thing for a woman to be high empowered in the political power. So that was basically my first job, and there it has been more or less entrepreneur. I've run my companies. I've started a company. I've sold companies. I've even been part of owning an investment group with other women leaders. So business and being independent, having my freedom is something that is very dear to my heart. And that's what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis in the work that I'm doing today.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. And Nick, isn't freedom what we all seek at some level or other? And yet we put ourselves into boxes. Now, Nick, I know you, you know me, but share for our viewers and our listeners a bit more about yourself.
I started my career as an acupuncturist when I was 20, and I went to China in the early 1980s. And my background was Chinese medicine, Chinese philosophy, and I was always an entrepreneur. I set up co-founded one of the biggest acupuncture colleges in the UK and now Europe, health centres, other businesses. And my real love is, how do you use these Chinese philosophies? How do you use this energy to understand both ourselves and our relationships and what's actually going on in the world? And for me, it's a fantastic model to understand the intricacies and all the stuff that kind of goes on, the pattern that we're looking for. Runa's a really good friend of mine, and when we were having a conversation about patterns and shapes and energy, etc., it was very much kind of trying to get away from this polarizing, this is this and this is this. Men are like this, women are like this, these people are like this, and these people are like this. And it's the disease that we're sitting in at the moment with the world. And it's a very nice, secure disease, this, yin, yang. But the Chinese didn't do that. They had a pattern of energies. And actually, men are not like this, and women, we're a mixture of everything. So the work that Runa and I do is exploring that the mixture, getting away from the kind of polarity thinking of boxes. You're like this or you're like this. So my background is Chinese medicine, philosophy, energetics. As you know, I created the vitality test, a way to understand yourself in a very deep and profound way.
I've done loads of personality tests before, and I won't mention any of them like Myers-Briggs or anything like that, which I just did. There's a whole bunch of them that I've done. And what I get is, and there's one which I definitely won't mention that you and I met via, which boxes you in where you are this profile and this is who you are and these are the strategies, don't touch anything else, which actually sounded great at the time. I have to say I was a big advocate of it because it made me think, oh yeah, that's true. I am somebody who loves, working with people. I love creating stuff. I love doing this kind of stuff. And yet it kind of puts me in a position where I felt very helpless because it meant that, I can't do anything on my own. I don't have a team. If I'm a startup company or a one-man band, how the heck do I operate? So the vitality test, I absolutely love. Explain to our viewers in what way is the vitality test different to other types of personality profiling tests?
Well, it was a very hard test to develop. I had a 2-year waiting list to see me, to work with me. And so I wanted to find a way to externalize what it is that I do. And the vitality test was very hard to create because what it's trying to do is trying to spot a pattern of 5 energies. Whereas lots of personality tests, they say, are you an introvert or are you an extrovert? Are you this or are you this? And it's trying to pigeonhole you, which is what our book is all about, avoiding being pigeonholed. And what the vitality test does is it measures a pattern of 5 energies that can coexist together, as opposed to you are this or you are. So with this, we don't do introvert and extrovert. You have a blend and different style of doing. It gives you the freedom to be who you are with all the contradictions that exist. And yeah, Runa's one of the most highly trained people in the world with a vitality test. She kind of knows you. Yeah, you are. You know it. She knows it absolutely inside out.
And use it. And I use it with all my clients.
And
it has been exactly what Nick is saying. It's been such an eye-opener for people, both for them personally when they understand it, and as well, I've used it a lot with groups. And so to measure really how is this group working? So what are your strength, meaning what is the window that you're most likely going to be looking out of? And most of you might be having a really clear vision from one angle, and there might be one person in that room that has a clear window to another set window, and that person, if we're not aware, is most likely going to be the one that feels like an outsider, that always trying to point something out that the others don't see. And as the result of that, it's missed if they don't listen to it. If they are aware that they are just seeing it from this angle, and they actually should be listening to this one that has a different point of it, the work becomes more inclusive and it becomes more a sustainable thing for them to work together as understanding each other and seeing, okay, here's something that I'm just totally blind for. Tell me more.
So what have you seen as the major problems, major issues with people boxing others or boxing themselves? So for example, an accountant might say, well, I'm an accountant. I enjoy what I do. I love the detail. I don't like to hang around with people. What's wrong with that? It's been used for thousands of years.
Because you go into the work box, and work box has been something that's been really on my mind lately. I give you a story. So one of my clients, who is a solicitor, a barrister, you would probably say in England, she was really close to a burnout. She was absolutely draining herself out. And she said, there's just so much going on. I am till midnight every night, and I just can't breathe. And as we started to just have a little conversation and dig into why she was doing it and et cetera, she found out that she was stuck in a box. And I'll tell you how that box looked like. Okay, so in the business world, the opening hours for a barrister should be between 9 and 5, okay? here's the fact. Here's a woman who is absolutely brilliant in her work, but she really does not function in the morning. In fact, she found out years ago, she functioned best at 10 o'clock in the evening till 4 o'clock in the morning. That's where she gets most things done. But because the workbox tells her she has to be there from 9 till 5, and everything after that, she's basically working, but she has to be there. The minute she could shift that and say, oh my God, I'm self-employed, I can choose when I work. I can get people to answer my phone on the other time. I can basically start at a different time and work when I am in my flow.
You know, that's fascinating because there's one particular guy who actually one of the few people who I admire who's out there, who's a motivational speaker. He talks about 5 a.m., waking up at 5 a.m. and doing all sorts of stuff. I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I love his work. Love his work. I've tried the 5 a.m. thing. I swear to you, I hate it. Because I end up being drained, and I've done it for weeks on end. I've ended up being drained for like half the day. And this is like, practice. And I know, I advocate it takes 66 days to form a habit, but I end up being drained. So I end up doing less work. And the work quality isn't so good. And also I start getting irritable eyes. My eyes are irritated. So, and actually last night, for example, I started working late. I was working till 11 o'clock, and it was only because I had a few calls to make that I stopped myself. I was on a roll. There was nobody who could stop me. So I'm like your friend. I've done about 4 a.m, but certainly, totally.
Well, and isn't this a blind spot? We think we should do it this way, and we try so hard. And in her case, when she had all this figured out, she went, oh my God, I got all this space. I can actually, in the morning, I can go to the swimming pool. I can go to the coffee place and have a nice coffee with morning paper and just basically get myself slowly and gradually into my day. I have all this space in the world.
So what are the most restrictive boxes? And maybe both of yourselves can answer. Runa, do you want to start off? What are the boxes that are most damaging for people's lives?
I think boxes that are not allowing you to grow. The box that is suffocating you. The box that you think that you're supposed to do because maybe your grandmother or grandfather or great did it one day, and that was really needed in the time of maybe 1500th century, but you're still doing it, and you're not even doing it with thinking. You just think you're supposed to be doing it, and that box might be suffocating you today.
I hear you loud and clear.
Yes.
So, I mean, you know me, I'm not a typical interview. I'm going to throw my own.
Can I add into that?
Yeah, of course.
Runa's absolutely right. Those are the most damaging boxes. They're also the boxes that are most damaging or most destructive are the ones you believe to be true. Because you can have those boxes that are quite restrictive and they block you and stuff like that. But actually, if you don't believe they're to be true and you can get rid of them and you can move around them, then they're not. They're temporarily limiting or restricted. But there are certain boxes that you absolutely, at a deep unconscious level, believe to be true, and they're the ones. If they're restrictive and you believe that they're true, that's when you have the double whammy.
Yeah, and it's not just about religious boxing in. Like, we've just had the Christchurch massacre in the 2 mosques, not because somebody's of this religion. It's not just about political. It's not about color of skin. It's actually even the subtle things. Even the subtle things where you think, oh, say for example, I do a lot of my writing in a coffee shop. And I was talking to a young lady who works there. And because she's following so much of the boxes she's supposed to fit into, I asked a series of questions. Her low self-esteem, big smile on her face, her self-esteem was way at the bottom. And being someone who does a lot of healing work, it's very easy to see the trajectory of where she's going. And that goes back to living in a cardboard box. Right? There was a song, was it? Now, how can people get out of boxes when that's all they've been conditioned and trained to do from the moment they were born?
In the book, The Story of Boxes, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which is, you know, like we say, it's like the film, except it's only better. It's much better. So The Story of Boxes, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly.
Have you got Lee Van Cleef in your book? As long as you got Lee Van Cleef.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. he dotted throughout it.
Okay.
So we have quite a kind of a real kind of step-by-step process that we take through. But a kind of shortcut version you can do yourself with the boxes in terms of getting out of them. First thing to do is just to start to be aware that they exist. And what Runa says so brilliantly in our events, and she said it in Washington, she said, once you start to be aware of the boxes, you will start to see them absolutely everywhere. And have that amused observation about the boxes. Don't go, oh my God, they're everywhere and they're blocking. Just have the amusement. Oh my God, they're absolutely everywhere. So you have that kind of amusement about them, observation. You just first of all just start to spot them. Don't sweat it. Remember, they're all. Then the second thing you do is you just question, is this box serving me? What's this? Is this helping me? Because you might have a box that a group of people that come together to have a common and shared experience. So I think, God, actually, I love being in this box, this clique, this group, because we have common experiences and we support each other. Or actually, I find it very restricted. So you work out whether it's serving you or it isn't serving you. And we talk about whether you kind of live in the box, you love it, or whether you actually want to leave it. And if you want to leave it, you say the third step is the decision as to what you want to do with the box. Well, I want to live in this box, or I want to love this box, or actually I want to leave this box. And in the book, we very much talk about how you would leave the box. But the real big secret is, as to how you leave it, is the box doesn't exist anyway.
There you go.
It's all made up. And once you get in your head that it's all made up, you don't actually need to do anything. In the book, we take you through a process to ask questions and do things and liberate yourself. But the real secret is they're all made up.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't need to escape it because they don't exist.
So is there a danger, though, that if someone's pigeonholed themselves for so many decades, so many years of their life, all of this, and they've got attachment to that identity, all of a sudden they've lost their identity. Isn't there a danger that they might feel very lost?
But if you love that box, then why would you want to leave it? My wife's a nurse, and she loves the nurse box. She loves being a nurse, and she says, I'm a nurse. I loved being an acupuncturist. I adored it. It was a trauma when I left it, you're right. But so I still hang around with them, and I still say, oh, yes, I was an acupuncturist. I hang on to it, but it was never restrictive of me because I adored it. Isn't that right, Runa? It's
yeah.
If you love it, then keep it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been very active in the women empowerment circles and you know, serving on various boards, etc., etc. And I belong to the past vice president of FKA, which is the Icelandic Association of Women Business Leaders, and beautiful group of women, really good networking. You know, many of them really good friends of mine today, and that is absolutely beautiful. Till I realized that my network, my circle of friends were more or less women business leaders worldwide. And I thought, okay, that's not maybe, I mean, yeah, I love that, but that's not giving me access to the beautiful man out there in the business world that I was missing. Mm. So I could still be in that box. Just I'm aware that I do want to look at the beautiful man out there.
No, absolutely. Funny enough, I had that issue as well, except the other way around. Not the other way around, but most of my clients, most of my network are female. I don't go searching out for females, but they're the people who are drawn to me. And there's a lot of men who are, especially in the healing world, there's a lot of men who are suffering because things have shifted with the Me Too movement, with everything being polarized, everything's up in the air, and the days of being the breadwinner, bringing in all the money, being the hunter, basically, well, those are more or less gone, except in certain societies. So my question is, how does humanity, I put this to you, Runa, how does humanity evolve without people feeling that they've been left behind? And it's a tricky question, and it's a tricky one to answer, but how do you feel we can move forward in time? You've done it in Iceland, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
when you say we've done it in Iceland, what do you mean?
But meaning that you've had a lot more female in your political positions and so on. You've dealt with a lot of financial traumas, like since 2008, and you've been involved in that as well. So you've been able to shift in Iceland. Could it be that it's a smaller country? Could it be, I don't know. But how does humanity move forward without a whole bunch of people feeling like they've been left behind?
That is such a good question. And the first thing that is coming up my mind, which I hope is giving you answer to the question, is a CEO that I was talking to the other day here in Iceland, who is running an insurance company. And what really brought him to my attention was the fact that he and his team were, before everything was legalized in Iceland, coming to legalize, equal pay, equal sets of gender on all the roles, from top, bottom, all those things that has to do with equality. His company was before it was legalized, and I thought it was so interesting. And I had a good conversation with them, and the first thing he said to me, he said, "Runa, let's make one thing really, really clear and simple. Having equal pay, having equal amount of women and men in executive role, medium leadership, bottom, whatever, piece of cake. It's a decision." So and hey, it's a male whom I'm talking about. That's just basically was, as he just said, doesn't make sense doing it anyone else. So if there is a way to do that, and it is a piece of cake, then I believe in humankind, and I believe that when we feel that we have self-worth, and we feel that whatever that is, the gift that we were born with on this planet, it's of value in some way or shape or form, and we strive for being the change that we want to see in our world, I believe we can do it. I believe everyone that is listening to this can do it. The question is, do you want to?
Do you want to? And there's two words that came through here, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It boils down to self-worth. If I believe I am worthy of whatever it is that I feel I'm worthy of, then why would I feel threatened by somebody else evolving? And we need to move away from this thing of, one person wins, that means I've got to lose. It's about bloody time. We shifted from that. And the other word is decision. It's like giving up cigarettes. I've got clients, and friends who smoke, and they say, "Oh, I'm not ready to smoke." I said, "No, it's ready to quit." I said, "It's not because you're not ready to quit. You just haven't decided. The moment you decide, you're going to stop, but you haven't decided." So 100% agree. So Nick, talk to me about, actually, let's go on to the whole men thing again for a moment. So we had the Me Too movement. I know I'm going to hit some hot buttons here. Hit some raw nerves. The whole Me Too movement, which has evolved, and I've interviewed about the people about it, but I don't want to dwell upon that too much. A lot of men are having their cages rattled, and you've got this whole, political correctness going on, and then you've got the gender fluidity. Now, a lot of men seem to, I don't know if they are or not, appear to feel like, oh my God, if women move forward, how am I gonna run my business? How will I succeed? So how does the man address this stupid alpha maleness and not still, in a way that he goes, okay, you know what? Actually, they can do well, and so can I. How can a man address that? I don't know if you understood the question.
I do. Well, I think it just comes back down to that same things that we were talking about earlier, in that making a commitment to do you fundamentally, as a man, do you fundamentally believe that you'll be worse or better off, or society will be worse or better off? If you think you're going to be worse off, then it's very hard for you to do it. So it's, first of all, it's opening up your thinking to a different possibility. But all that, the issues and the challenges that the people say what men have, it just comes back down to that thing of, well, how do you actually feel about yourself? Do you fully understand your competencies? Do you fully understand your brilliance? Do you fully understand what makes you wonderful? And if you get that, then actually no one can compete with you for what you do.
Correct.
If you also understand the brilliance of each other individual, then no one can compete with them for what they do.
Yeah.
If you are from a position that there isn't enough to go round in the world, and we're all having to scrabble and fight over the scraps and what's left over, if you're coming from that position, it's very, very hard to be free and open. Saying that, there is inequality within our education system. I am absolutely aware that I can come from a position and say, well, the world seems pretty abundant. Yeah, I'm a white man living in a very wealthy country who had a really good education, and I'm devilishly good looking. So, so I can say, oh, well, look,
it's
things really work.
What's that?
Yeah,
I was saying, but carry on.
So I can say, oh yeah, the world is really abundant, but I'm absolutely aware that if I was in a different country and I had was a different color or things, the world is not as equal.
No.
So I, in my position, have the duty and the right to stand up and say, well, actually, I would like the world a bit more equal. That doesn't mean I have to lose out. It just means I want the world more equal. I do not want someone to be looked at and they're put in a box and told that they come from a shithole country.
Yeah.
I think that is disgusting to me. Yeah. Or that I had as a child, as a teenager, I would be walking down the street and in London, and we would be stopped by the drug squad and they would find stuff because we did stuff. And I got a slap on the wrist. And my friends that were coloured got a police caution and a warning because I was one colour and spoke in a thing, and they got something else because they were some different. So there was a prejudice and a boxing going on with the drug squad in London in the 1970s. Yeah. I now go to America. I have no police record. They go to America and they say, "What's this? You've got a police record for drugs." So what we have to do is we have to make a stand really, really early on within our education system, within our cultures, within our thing, to say no more boxes. Let us not start to make judgments and not allow people in positions of power to refer to other countries as shithole countries.
Yeah.
And as a white educated man, it is my position, and male, it is my position to say that that isn't okay. And the same goes for genders, to say, actually, this isn't okay.
Yeah,
I'm in this board that's full of men. That isn't okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but political correctness gone wrong. Yeah, we'll get over it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing about tradition, whatever angle you're coming from, when we try to maintain a tradition, what you're saying is, I've got a set of values, I'm never going to evolve beyond that.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like, seriously?
Yeah.
Look what happened to the dinosaurs. Look what happened to the dodo. You know, that was only pretty recent.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're for listeners and viewers watching, go into the vitalitytest.com. For those of you who are coming to the Human Heart Gathering, and the link is below, for those of you coming to that, make sure you do the vitality test. Make sure you bring an image and bring your results back, because Nick will be sharing that at the Human Gathering. And hopefully Runa will be there. We'll talk more about that a bit later. The question I want to ask is about this. So I'm a big fan of cooperation, co-creation, collaboration. But we don't all collaborate the same. Does anyone want to answer that?
In terms of we don't all collaborate? Yeah, yes, no, I think I say, yeah, I think that's true. Okay, that's me done on that.
Okay, cool. Would you like to expand upon that, Runa?
I absolutely agree with you, and we don't do that the same way. And this whole thing, I also want to add a box into that statement. Collaboration is often looked at as being one of the feminine aspects in leadership. And I just like to point out that in the leadership of leading the No More Boxes movement and what Nick and I and the Changemakers have been doing, creating this awareness around these consequences of boxes, the person that has the most collaboration in his blood is Nicholas Haines. And he's absolutely, if you notice, he's actually a man, and he's a male. And I'm a female in this, and I've literally had to learn how to collaborate. So it's a skill set that you can learn. I know that myself, but it has nothing to do with our gender.
Tell me about your book. How can people get hold of No More Boxes?
Best way, I would think, to go to nomoreboxesmovement.com. Right. And find everything, find out where we're going to be, about our webinars that we're doing, about how to reach the book, how to contact Nick and myself, and of course go to Amazon as well. And
with No More Boxes, you have breakfast clubs. I mean, I understand people have breakfast clubs for networking and all sorts of stuff. But please explain to me why you have breakfast club for No More Boxes.
What the No More Boxes breakfast clubs are is we pick a particular topic. So we might pick gender as a box, or we might pick faith or religion or whatever as a box. So gender is a common one because that's the thing that most of us have experience of. And we pick a topic, and then we take people through a process around a kitchen table, around breakfast, when we all sit around and have this guided conversation around the boxes to do with gender. And we've done it with university professors, with politicians, with ordinary people like you and me, and they all kind of go, oh my goodness, what an eye-opener in terms of my unconscious beliefs about gender. And they're very funny. The events are very funny. They're really amusing. People laugh. And it just opens up these boxes, whichever one we're looking at. And so gender just opens up our hidden biases and perceptions about gender in a way that's really fun, really enlightening, impactful, and it carries on running into the future. So they're little seeds, and we have good breakfasts as well. So lots of fun.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to finish off with this, that for the viewers and the...
Sorry, Harun, can I just say that although we run the breakfast clubs, anybody can run them. They just need to have a bit of training support. They're there for anybody to run.
How do they get hold of you? Is it through your websites?
nomoreboxesmovement.com.
Yeah, I've looked through the website. It looks absolutely fascinating. And the people you got on there, very smart looking people as well, very intelligent people. So what I was going to say was that it was interesting that I'm part of a big family and we're all very different people. There's 6 siblings, and you could not get 6 more different people even if you tried. None of us are the same. And I've observed from, coming to this country as a 4-year-old from Bangladesh, coming to this country, living in Birmingham, living in Sunderland, getting married, getting divorced, that had I stuck to the box that I was in, I'd be working in a restaurant. I'd probably have a big fat belly and have 4 or 5 kids myself, probably 0 hair. I'm not doing the work that I do now. And I love and appreciate all the people that are in my life, including yourself. So strongly recommend for those of you who haven't got hold of Nick and Runa's book, go on to nomoreboxes.com and the link is there. One final closing message I want to have from perhaps Runa to finish off.
Remember, this life is short enough, and remember, you're never going to get out of it alive anyway. So enjoy it.
Thank you so much. I absolutely love it. Love that message. Nick Haines and Runa Magnúsdóttir, yeah? Runa Magnúsdóttir. Thank you very much for joining the Harun Rabbani show. I really appreciate it. Hey, listeners, if you're watching, and viewers, watching and listening, make sure you share the link. Go onto the website. And, one of the things I found with both these individuals, they're actually very, very powerful people, but they're too bloody humble to say so. Connect with them. You'd be mad not to. Do connect with them. Learn from them. And if you can do some, collaboration, connection with them, co-creation, do that with him. I strongly recommend you. And I certainly, Runa, I haven't known that long, but Nick, since I've known Nick since 2005 or 6, he's had a tremendous impact on my personal life as well as my professional. I just don't tell him that often, but I'm saying it out publicly. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.